Now, let's look into the pyrolysis process. Pyrolysis comes from two Latin words, pyro, meaning heat, and lysis, meaning separation. In other words, what we are doing is we're using heat to break down the plastic into its smallest molecular level. It's very important that we don't confuse this with burning the plastic. In our process, the actual flame that you might see in the furnace of the machines that we use never touches the actual plastic. In other words, the pyrolysis reactor functions more like a large oven. Sometimes we even call them the largest pizza ovens in the world. As a result of this, plastic which is loaded into the reactors gets heated from below, from the furnace area, while it gets turned and spinned over inside the reactor. Once the plastic becomes heated, it will begin to break down in two main elements. Number one, into flammable gases, which are collected within the system and channeled back into the furnace area. This is very important to keep in mind. With these gases, the system is able to operate on its own, by itself. We do not use any outside source of heating energy aside from what is generated from the plastic. We can, of course, but it's important to highlight that the entire process can be run independent from any outside source of energy, aside from some electricity that we use for spinning the electrical engines in the reactors. Now, aside from these gases, the plastic will also begin to turn into smoke. The smoke is collected and channeled through a condensation system where it is now turned into the liquid, being the pyrolysis oil. This is the process in its simplest form. Now, one of our reactors would typically be able to hold as much as 8,000 to 9,000 kilos of plastic per one batch. Batch is the term that we use for a single load, which is processed in one processing cycle. In order to run the machine in the beginning of the cycle, when the plastic is still cold, heat must be created. As I mentioned earlier, once the machine is up and running, after approximately 8 hours in the production cycle, there will be enough gases that are formed to actually run the heat source coming straight from the plastic. During the first 8 hours, we are able to use either some of the oil created on the previous cycle, or we could optionally use natural gas as well. Approximately 8 hours into the cycle, these gases begin to form, and after that the machine is able to run more or less independently from any outside energy source. In countries such as in Thailand, or generally speaking the southern hemisphere in the world, we are able to use solar energy to cover all of our electricity needs. This truly means that our factories will be able to be completely isolated and independent from any energy source. Once the oil is produced, our machines actually create two types of oil. We have a heavy fraction, which in character is very similar to diesel, and we have a light fraction, which is very similar in character to gasoline. These two types of oils are then either kept separate if required or desired by the off-taker, but at the moment and in most cases, our off-takers actually prefer these both fractions to be combined. Once the oil has been received from the reactor, we will place the oil into a standing container where it will remain for approximately 24 hours. During this time, any water which is formed by moisture which has been left in the plastic will now separate from the oil. In order to make the oil the highest possible quality, we will always do our best to prepare the plastic in advance to be as clean and as dry as possible. At Corsair, we use both mechanical and manual sorting techniques where plastic waste is separated from mixed waste. This will ensure the best quality pyrolysis oil on the market.